All right, so we've been kind of talking about it for God, 3, 4 months at least now, maybe
Uh,
longer.
yeah,
Um, so we figured we would let our fans hear our thoughts on the newly released Mortal Kombat X video game.
hmm
Since, as you may have realized from our review of Mortal Kombat Annihilation, we are pretty big Mortal Kombat fans. Um, so yeah, why the hell not? We'll do a quickie review of the game.
yeah. It had become an increasingly more frequent reference as time went on. With us, like pretty much from the Annihilation episode onward, we just kept making references to it. Um,
Oh yeah, that's true because you mentioned Cassie and Ferrator.
yeah, I was and a lot of it has to do with the fact that we were so caught up in the pre-release hype.
Mm-hmm.
I know at one point you said that you were going to try your hardest to avoid all that stuff, and because you live in a house with me, there was no way that was going to happen because every 5 seconds I would go, dude, have you seen this? And of course you're like, no. Well, here, look, and he can do this thing, and just because I'm.
Even if you weren't here, I would have broken my vow on that after like 6 minutes because I just started watching video after video after video.
Yeah, it was a deep hole to get into, especially when it came to info. I wasn't super stoked with maybe their marketing. There was a good 3 or 4 month period, I think, where there was just no news at all. But
Yeah,
they were
yeah.
like, here's a picture of Quan Chi, and well, fuck you, because who cares? And a lot of them just kind of going, well, we're not talking about that right now, and then I don't know. It's like now that the game's out, and spoilers, I have positive things to say about the video game. I kind of wonder why they went through such the trouble. There was what was the big secret they were trying to hold back from us, and it really was just character reveals, and that's really about it, I think. But I guess it's kind of my own fault in that sense because there was so much hype with the comic and everything else going behind it that the game pretty much had to come out and make love to me for me to finally have my expectations fully met, and that was not going to happen. But the game itself, we waited. We did the midnight release thing, and after discovering, and Jesus, good call on your part for not getting the PC version.
Yeah. Whew. That I dodged a Aaron Black name on the bullet there.
Yeah, because you rightfully so jumped to the conclusion that your laptop was not going to be able to play it, because my gaming PC, when that game was released, couldn't play it. So we just buckled down on the Xbone version, and pretty much just pretty much those 2 days we played a bunch of matches, tried every character, and then powered through story mode in 5 hours.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
And as far as the Xbone goes, I looked at it this way. It's like I'm going to want to play Arkham Knight when it comes out, and I'm going to get Rock Band 4 when it comes out later this year, obviously.
mm-hmm.
And they are going to let you transfer all your DLC songs from your Xbox 360 or PS3 to your new, Xbone or PS4. So I was going to have to get one eventually, so why the fuck? Why not just get it now?
Yeah, and I think Microsoft is very happy with that because they're going to sell a lot of Xboxes just because of that restriction on that. And here I am being like, I want to play Bayonetta 2, so how much are Wii U's costing right now? I play Mortal Kombat and Rocksmith. That's pretty much what the things that are keeping my attention. But yeah, so we played through the actual game. The PC version, I'm just gonna say, is fucking boned. Or more specifically, was on release day. They had, I guess, tried because what better way to what better time to experiment than on a huge
release day,
huge release, on a midnight. They were going to do this thing where you had a 3 gig like base download, and then little packets of the game would stream and download as you were playing the game, and it didn't work at all. The game was unplayable. The feature, like you could load up a menu, and granted, beautiful menu. Like, font was very beautifully spaced and,
crisp,
cleanly typed. There's a nice forest in the background. You had a multitude of options, up, down. As the cursor moved, the different changing colors to indicate where your cursor was at any point. And then
really, as writers, we could appreciate a great font.
Yeah, it wasn't Comic Sans. It was like a Helvetica color or whatever. Helvetica, there we go. Words. But, then the second you clicked on anything, it decided to go, oh yeah, fuck you, we're not doing that. Actually, I would have probably appreciated it more if the game actually did that and just would have said, like, literally said to you, fuck you, we're not doing that, but instead it just crashes the desktop. So, that was... If we had both gotten the PC version, we may have burned this house to the ground.
Yeah.
The amount of anger we would have had, but thankfully I was just like, alright, fuck, let's play the Xbox version, and we did. And now that the PC version has been patched, and still has more patches upcoming, there was a 15 gig patch that came out that apparently did nothing. But a lot of the problems now aren't so much with performance. Like, I can't run the game at full specs, even though I have more than the recommended. So there's still some optimization issues that they might be working on, but I can play it. I can get into matches kind of, but we'll get into that as we kind of break down things. I guess the first thing we should probably cover is just the gameplay itself. We're going to kind of come at this from different angles, I think, because I'm a little bit more privy to like the competitive scene. Mm-hmm. Not to say that I'm on equal footing with any of those people, but I tend to follow them and kind of their thing with my my Street Fighter background. But in terms of like how it plays, I guess what would you say your thoughts are on that?
I like it. I mean, now, and I said this when we talked about Mortal Kombat 2011. I think because Mortal Kombat tends to have more of a simplistic schemata, for lack of a better word. Mm-hmm. It's better for somebody like me who isn't really up to snuff on the competitive scene. Mm-hmm. And I've found that Kung Lao is easily my best character, and I've been able to win quite a few matches online playing as him. So really, I look at it this way: if I'm able to win matches online against anybody, then the control scheme's got to be pretty good, or at least it was catered more to somebody like me. I don't know, but then again, they do show the frame rate data and all that stuff in the pause menu, so it's still, they geared it towards the more competitive scene this time around.
Yeah, my main takeaway from it, my fear was, because you got an Injustice when that came out, and we played that for like a week.
Yeah.
I just wasn't feeling it. A lot of it had to do with, honestly, just my general disinterest in the subject matter. I just don't care that much about Batman. So I would go as far as to say I actively dislike Batman. Mm-hmm. And that was a game that was like half Batman characters. And like the comic book thing, I'm a fair weather comic book fan at this point, I guess you could say. But it just wasn't going to be enough to go like, well, there's Green Lantern and the Flash, so I gotta stick around in this. I just had no investment. Even if Lobo flipping a guy off as he's, riding his bike away is funny. And the fear a lot of people had was when this game came out, because you look at Mortal Kombat 9 and where that was at. Mortal Kombat. Kids, let's just sit down for a second here. I gotta let you know something.
I have a feeling this is going to be something very deep and insightful that you've never heard before.
Mortal Kombat is never a good game, per se. That was never really what people came for. When it first came out, honestly, people came to it for an awesome fucking commercial. and, the first Mortal Kombat, it was never a competitive, scene, a competitive game. And with the moveset, or lack thereof, for the characters in those games, it was... No. Mortal Kombat 2 is different, but even then, if you're trying to play it by yourself, the AI was basically programmed by God. It felt like,
or Satan, which whoever.
Well, depending. But it was like you never really had that same sense of proficiency and control with Mortal Kombat games that you did with other fighting games. Even when I went into the 3D era, Mortal Kombat 4, where everyone was fighting like rabbits on crack, you're like, okay, they're still trying here on this 2D plane, but it's not working. We're throwing rocks at each other. Kai's doing a handstand for some reason, whatever. You get into that PS2, Xbox era, the games that everyone wants to pretend are so horrible, but really aren't. They kind of tried stuff, and you even see elements of that now with the stance changing and all that. Except a bit different, obviously. But even as recent as Mortal Kombat 9 was basically their attempt to recreate the shitty gameplay of the first 3 games.
Yeah.
And that's kind of why it didn't really resonate that well with me, because it was everything looked so much better, but it still played it was still uppercuts and sweeps and roundhouses and all that shit, and gaming had moved on. It just wasn't going to hold up anymore. Now, that's not to say that game didn't have a competitive scene, and honestly, I think because of how it was presented, because of what it did with story mode and everything, because of how they updated the characters, people got interested in Mortal Kombat again. It revived this franchise that was kind of killed with Armageddon. And it kind of built up this own, it made Evo, which, it was something Mortal Kombat never did. But people had this fear that it was going to play like Injustice because they had moved on, and in some ways, I guess, kind of. My main takeaway is that it's actually a probably much harder game, especially much harder than 9 was. Because 9 is
yeah, definitely.
9, duck, press high punch. And running is still something I think people are getting used to, especially since it's not its own button as much as it's just kind of a command. There are a lot of weird changes in terms of how characters move and react. Everyone still has an uppercut, but I do appreciate the fact now that everyone has kind of their own unique spin on it, that they all have different properties. For example, Devora's is this huge reach with her, feelers or whatever. Or
Sonya does a handstand kick as her uppercut. Kung Lao uses his hat, of course.
Yeah. And I like that. And granted, uppercuts are still fucking super overpowered. I can do an 8-hit combo and still only do the same amount of damage as an uppercut, which is kind of silly, but I mean, that's Mortal Kombat for you. And the thing that I'm really taking away from it is that it's really not so much of a combo heavy game, even though a lot of people are trying to make it one. Especially going online, these people are like, I can do a 27-hit combo. Dude, you did 4 damage.
Yeah.
It's really... And people are still trying to discover the game, so I'm not going to sit here and pretend I'm some sort of expert on it. But really what I'm discovering now is it's kind of a case of just rushdown. Endless rushdown. You watch competitive Street Fighter, well, certain versions of Street Fighter, like Street Fighter 2 especially, it's fireballs all day, you know? Street Fighter 2, definitely, and that kind of thing. The concept of zoning in fighting games is hard one to keep up in this game, unless you're Katana, and even then, it's kind of hard because like half the fucking roster has a teleport. But the other thing I've noticed that's kind of strange is that, and again, this is more of maybe a thing that not everyone would notice, but when it's pointed out to you, it's kind of harder to notice. When you're in a state which is called wake up, which is after you've been knocked down, and you know you're basically the character is getting up, you don't have any time to breathe. You don't have any invincibility on wake up, which is something you kind of take for granted in other games. Where, you know, you'll fight like an asshole in Street Fighter who picks Ken and he fucking... It's like, oh, knock me down, will you? Well, here's a dragon punch that you're seeing coming from a mile away. There is no wake-up game at all in Mortal Kombat X. And it's really taking some getting used to because there are two places where you are absolutely fucked in this game. When you're knocked down... and when you're in a corner. And it starts to almost be like Tekken, where you're like, I got hit into the air and he just punched me about 17 times and I'm just kind of watching it happen. Again, the damage scaling is such that it's not, you know, like over in a combo or something, you know. It's like, well, fuck you, Armor King or whoever. But, It's still kind of strange. So a lot of people are finding that they have to like waste meter to do like an enhanced special or something just to get out of there. And depending on the character you're facing, like a fucking Scorpion or something, you're still fucked. Overall, though, I will say I do like the way this one feels, even though there's still a lot of strange stuff that takes some getting used to. Also, the fact that I'm playing on an Xbox 360 controller.
Not a Hori.
Yeah. And that's the thing. I could use my Hori stick, but Mortal Kombat, because its inputs aren't the quarter circles, they're not, you know, it's more of like the tapping. A stick isn't as effective. And you can... It has like the setting for alternate controls, where it can turn them into fireball motions and such, but then it makes combos harder to do. That's the other thing I've noticed in the menu. There's like the like release check, and there's like the input shortcuts. I will say to anyone that's playing this game and has no idea what those settings are, the first thing you should do is turn them off. The release check especially. The release check is basically what is called in other fighting games negative edge. Something you don't notice because you usually just it never comes into play, and like especially again like a Capcom fighter, your inputs count when you release the button, not when you press them. So when you throw a punch, I mean the frames of animation are so minuscule that the naked eye really doesn't notice sometimes, or most of the time. But in a game like this, you do notice. I notice even more so because I'm on the fucking laggy ass PC version. So it definitely can throw off your timing. The same thing with the input shortcuts. Apparently what the input shortcut thing does is that it can often count a down or a back as like down back, even if it's not. And just kind of randomly fuck with you a little bit there. So they're trying. Like you said, they have the frame data stuff in there now. I'm hearing that some of it is woefully inaccurate, but they're trying. The brutalities are fucking awesome. I like a good 15 ribcage finisher as much as the next guy, but I'm glad that they're not that. I'm glad that they are also very, very rare. Because fatalities and like you're gonna see all the character fatalities within like a week of owning the game.
Mm-hmm.
You're gonna see all the faction kills, or in my case, one faction kill over and over because everyone loves using the smoke one. But the brutalities, it's like you have to. First of all, you have to work for it, so it's like a bragging right. And also, like you could have the game for months or like years and not have actually like done them all or seen them all.
Yeah, because some only work if you're in a specific variation for a character. They only work. You have to do specific special moves to activate them. You have to be a certain distance from the character. It always has to be at the end of a match. Yeah, they are not easy to do. Now, granted, the character I play as, Kung Lao, has probably the easiest one in the entire game.
The throw punch thing, yeah.
Yeah, you do your throw, but you have to hit 2 buttons 15 times while you're doing it, and then it activates it, which is still monumentally easy to do. But but then you unlock more brutalities in the crypt along with all the other shit.
Yeah, we'll get to the crypt in a bit. I'm trying to think of... Oh, of course, the variations are probably a thing we should also probably comment on. Because that's kind of new. How well do you think that works?
It's hit or miss. I mean, because as you've said before, a lot of the variations are wholly useless. And then some of them are just absurdly overpowered, like Ermac Mystic. Jesus Christ. Scorpion Ninjutsu. And then
Inferno Scorpion is really the one that I'm seeing a lot of people play now too. The Scorpion is one of the rare characters. Takeda as well, where all 3 of his variations are a pain in the ass to deal with. But yeah, lots of Inferno Scorpion and Shiraryu Takedas. I'm saying. Yeah.
But I love the variation thing on the whole though, because you basically can play as three different characters in one character, depending on who you choose. And I appreciate that level of effort that they put into making the characters.
Yeah. It's, if nothing else, I think, and this is their first time trying it, I'm assuming this is something they're going to kind of keep in the series from this point forward. I'm hoping that they do look more into how viable all of them are. Like glitches aside, Spectral Ermac is useless. It's of no use to anyone. But it can give you that incentive to, and as the game goes on, like as things advance and as people learn more about the game, we can reach a point where not only a character that we didn't think had anything, but a variation we didn't think had any like good tricks could end up actually being really good. And that's kind of the fun part for me, is almost like playing the game is almost secondary to like the discovery phase that people are going through right now, where it's like, holy shit, did you know that Jax can do this or whatever? I mean, probably no one would say that about Jax. Yeah, I mean, it's Jax. But, but it also gives you that incentive to, like, try characters you wouldn't normally care for. Like, Johnny Cage, as a character I enjoy, don't really care to play him, but then he suddenly became Noob Saibot with one of his variations. I'm like, okay, I should try that. And so I'm kind of fucking around with Stunt Double. And I'm like, wow, apparently now I'm a Johnny Cage player.
I call that the Mizdow variation.
Well, yeah, it's fun. Fisticuffs is also really good too, actually, just because he has this endless punch loop. But even then, with Johnny, like, A-Less is useless. Reptile, he has one good variation. Nimble's okay, but like, oh god, he turned invisible. I wonder where he's on the screen. Maybe it's where he was when he turned invisible. and the reptile invisible thing, like, never seemed to make a lot of sense anyway, because yes, your opponent could be confused as to where you are, but it's not like you can see you as well. You're also invisible to yourself.
Yeah.
So positioning, it's weird. But for a first effort, I think it's cool. I think there's some characters I wish went in a different direction. Like Jackie, I wish went a little bit less like artillery and more into like a kickboxing kind of thing, because that was supposed to be like her background. Like the Sonya variations are just like, what's the most boring set of stuff we can give this character? But that also has more to do with the fact that like Sonya, not to sound like a creep or anything, but once Sonya put a shirt on, people suddenly didn't care about Sonya anymore. And it is kind of strange the transformation she went through, by the way, where like the last game she was like a sentient pair of boobs, and now she's like this serious like
hard general.
I mean, Sonya's like defining characteristic has always been just kind of like an interesting bitch, but it's just funny that like just the way the characters have changed. Like Katana is no longer like a stripper with like 4-foot long legs. She's now like appropriately sized. No one's dressed like a stripper anymore, really, which is good because they don't need to be. So
I mean, she basically went from aerobics instructor to hard-ass general.
Pretty much.
In the 23 years Mortal Kombat's been out.
To be fair, though, this is probably still her best look. Like, I hated how she looked in like Deadly Alliance and stuff. She just had a weird, strange appearance to her. She had like a belly button ring, and like she had like the thong stage where it was like, you're a military general, aren't you?
Yeah.
Why are you dressed like Lita? But it's yeah. That's pretty much where we are with the gameplay right now. I think we both enjoy it, but at the same time, we're kind of still in this early phase of just trying to get the feel for it. To this day, I still have trouble like pulling off Melina rolls, and that's like one of her most essential moves. Mm-hmm. Because the timing on this game is a lot more strict than it was in other games. Which, hey, get good or stop playing, as a lot of people would say. But overall, no major complaints on the gameplay front. Now story. Let's. I guess we can kind of bundle story and characters together.
Why not?
Maybe we should probably just talk about the roster first, and maybe kind of our thoughts on that. Before we're not going to spoil the story, but we'll at least give our thoughts on the story after that, I guess. So this roster. Disappointing.
Yeah, a little bit.
And I know you're going to see a lot of that on like the boards where it's like, well, my one character didn't make it in. Like, well, actually, my character did make it in. I still think it's kind of a softball roster.
Well, let me put it this way.
Sure. Okay,
this week, you have your tower battles. You can just choose towers that you want to play, like you're going up the the ladder in any of the original 3 games. And one of the towers this week, because they change every week, is Mortal Kombat 1.
Right. The
The entire roster of Mortal Kombat 1 is in this game, except for Shang Tsung.
Yeah.
And who knows, he may be added as DLC later on in the year.
Pretty much the entire Mortal Kombat 2 roster is represented as well. Brock is not playable, but he is part of story mode.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's pretty much everyone. Yeah, well, no Kentaro, but who the fuck cares about Kentaro? But yeah, I remember when I did a review of MK versus DC Universe. Like, this would have been 08? 09?
Yeah, 08, I believe.
And granted, my complaints of that game go much deeper than roster, but like that was like the most weak roster possible. It's like, I don't want Kano and Baraka. Who cares about Kano and Baraka? And it was just basically like, how many Mortal Kombat 2 characters can we throw in this thing? And here, there is such a focus on the special forces, you know, and if the faction rankings are any indication, no one gives a flying shit about the special forces. It has been last place the entire time the game's been out.
And it isn't even close.
Yeah.
They have been at 6 to 7% activity since it began.
And in your 25 character roster, 7 or 8 of them are special forces humans. It's a bit of a kind of like, well, okay, like if Fujin and Havoc and Reiko and a lot of these characters that are not only like haven't been used or overused, like, you know, like Jax has. Jax has not missed a fucking game since Deadly Alliance. Which is like, and when has Jax ever been essential? You know? But instead it's like, we have to fill this thing with special forces characters. And then you think to yourself, well, okay, maybe they're integral to the story. Well, not really.
They have a part, but
yeah.
I mean, it's not like the story is made or broken without them.
Yeah, like, there are characters in this game, again, trying not to spoil, there are many characters that are playable in this game that could have been eliminated entirely from the story, and it really wouldn't have made a difference. The story does focus on the combat kids, as I call them. It's like the Ninja Turtle group of the 4 descendants. I will say, I like those 4 characters. I find it strange that Cassie, the entire time the game was being hyped and marketed, we saw her, you know, her giving the middle finger, her bubblegum, her cocky intros, and none of that is in the story.
Yeah, she's a completely different person.
Like, it's not even the same character, really. She's like a very stern, very, like, she's the serious one.
Yeah, she is the voice of reason.
Yeah, like, she's the only person that doesn't quip in this in that group. She's because she has to be like the leader, and like, yeah, and I can see where people make the argument, well, she's supposed to be a combination of her mother and father, but it's like, she was very clearly presented as taking much more from Johnny Cage, and that kind of, you know, that kind of attitude and way of carrying herself. Like, she's coming into a battle with her, you know, her headphones on and chewing gum and has the aviators and whatever, and does the nut punch. And it's this really weird disconnect because in the gameplay there's like this incidental dialogue that you'll sometimes hear where they'll like taunt each other.
Yeah, in the middle of matches.
And so you'll play like the Cassie chapter in the story where she's like, I've got to save the world and fight for my friends and everyone's in danger, and it's like super self-serious, and then she gets in the match and she's like, suck on this, Cage, boom, bitch. Like,
yeah,
who are you? What is your character? So I found that a little jarring. Kung Jin, who I expected to absolutely hate, I think was probably the most developed. Although he still looks really fucking stupid. I don't know why they decided that weird headpiece should have been his primary outfit. Like, because he gets like a thief garb later that looks like 10 times cooler. And Takeda and Jackie are just kind of there. To me, the interesting ones are like the monstrous characters, like the Outworld characters. You know, Kotal Khan, Devora, like Ferritor. Who am I missing? Aaron Black.
Aaron Black.
Yeah.
And as far as Kotal Khan goes, I was expecting him to be this just psychotic, crazy, fucknut, insane, like, what's the word I'm looking for? Despot, but he is a dictator, but he doesn't come across. He comes across very serious and kind of like very politician-y. He is willing to inflict a lot of violence on people, but he's very reserved for what I thought he was going to be based on the marketing.
I did like that to an extent because I don't want another Shao Kahn, and honestly, Shao Kahn can sit out for a while.
I totally agree. I'm glad they went that route with him.
For me, the disconnect was in how the comic portrayed him and how he actually was in the game. Because there was so much depth and development in the comic. And granted, I understand what I'm saying as I'm saying it. Like, of course there was. But it's almost like there was no communication between the two sides in terms of like character motivations and how they acted and things like that. Because Kotal wasn't a bad guy. He was very benevolent. He had a very clear motivation and reason for doing things he did. And he's kind of a minor character.
Yeah.
In the grand scheme of things, when the whole Outworld conflict, the Mileena Kotal like struggle, you're thinking that's the center of this story, and it's maybe like a chapter and a half, which was disappointing because that kind of stuff where it's like, what do you want to worry about? The politics of the armed forces or crazy blade arm men fighting for control. Also, there's a cowboy.
Choices.
Aztec warrior man is in a political battle with sex demon lady. Or there's these kids that are fighting. 'Cause America. Like, it's not even close. I will say Devora is my new favorite character. By far. The way that they animated her in her scenes, the way she acts and like talks, just like everything about that character design, I think was a home run.
Yeah, I do like the way she calls herself this one.
Yeah, I do. And just like when you're watching her scenes and story, like it almost feels like she's going at a different frame rate than everyone else. Like, just like the way she moves is very just no other person moves the way she does. If you look at her facial animation, it's got this very unsettling kind of quality to it that I think's awesome. I was very worried when it came out because I know how... What's the word I'm looking for? Often disrespectful of its own characters the series can be.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That I went... Even before the game came out, I'm like, well... Devora, Ferritor, we're never going to fucking see you again after this game. And now I'm thinking Devora's probably a lock for the next game. Because of how much screen time she got, how important she felt, how unique she was. I'm seeing a lot of people playing her. I'm playing her. So, Ferritor is another story. If we're never going to fucking see that again. Which is unfortunate because I think it's very unique, but there's no character there. It's just kind of like
it's a henchman. It's just a soldier type, essentially.
Yeah. Aaron Black was cool. Again, conceptually, because they don't really do anything with him, I don't think.
Yeah, I really wanted to play as him, but he's just so slow.
Yeah, he needs momentum.
Yeah.
And it's hard to get out of the gate with him, especially at beginning, trying to learn him. My goal is to basically once the game is patched to my satisfaction, and I feel like I've grasped the concepts enough, I'm going to probably devote like a week to every character in the game, which isn't something again, it's probably a testament to the gameplay and the game itself. There's not a whole lot of fighting games I would do that with. I played Street Fighter Third Strike more than probably any other game not called Chrono Trigger or Rocksmith. And I still only played like 6 characters in that game. Because I just had no interest in the other ones, really. In terms of like learning them. Like, obviously I played them, but, you know. And this is a game where it's like, you know, because of the variations, because of just the systems, I think I could make a week of playing as Reptile, you know? I'm probably going to lose a lot, but who gives a fuck? And just, so when I play a King of the Hill, I can be that asshole that just hits random and goes, whatever, you know? Get all the respect points.
Yeah, that would be awesome.
But, yeah, it's, we might never see Aaron Black again either, because I'm not running into a whole lot of him online. I know that usage online isn't really a factor because this is pretty much whoever Ed Boon likes.
Yeah.
Which is why it's been the Scorpion show for so long. And if they were listening to like fan demand for characters, this roster would have looked a lot different. I think it's easy for us to forget, especially people that were passionate about, and this is a larger extent for the story in terms of like disappointment. At the end of every Mortal Kombat game since, I'll say 3, there's been this feeling with the story of going, man, they could do this in the next game and it would be awesome. And they never do it.
Yeah.
Like, you got to the end of 4 and you're like, man, I really want to see what happens with Kai and, you know, like, fuck Jarek, whatever. But, like, you know, clearly they're setting up, like, this new generation. Like, Fujin is going to be the protector now and Raiden's going to kind of take a back burner. And then, no. Quan Chi's the only one back because we like that Uncle Fester-looking guy for some reason, but that's it. And that kind of all got swept under the rug. And then Deadly Alliance happened and it was like, okay, this is kind of interesting. And Deadly Alliance to Deception, I think, was the only time they really kind of ran with it. Where there was consistency between the games. Where you're like, okay, this is the natural progression of where this would go.
Yeah.
And lore-wise and like story-wise, I think Deception is probably still the strongest. And a lot of that had to do with the way that story mode went, because you could actually touch upon everyone's story because you went and met everyone. And then they threw it all away after, you know, with Armageddon. You know, at the end of MK9, you went, man, they could have went this really interesting direction, and they kind of didn't. Everyone was kind of like, man, I wonder who the last boss is going to be. I wonder what, you know, this character or that character's future is going to be. And they just took a very safe path. I think it's easy for us to forget that this basically started with a bunch of guys who had a green screen and some weird drawings on their Trapper Keeper of Kung Fu guys. And everything after that was kind of, like, they kind of lucked into their success, because if Mortal Kombat 1 didn't have the blood, we would have never gotten to this point. Like, you know, and drawing Baraka, who's basically just looks like a rejected heavy metal album cover. They really like to conceptualize and come up with characters. They don't really give a shit about developing them. And that's a shame. Because, you know, as I talked about in the Annihilation review, it's like every character is somebody's favorite character. And you get to a point of critical mass with these characters that they keep pumping out where it's like, you might not think there's a whole lot of, you know, Tanya fans, or, well, Tanya's probably not a good example because she's actually coming out, but like I don't know.
And fuck Tanya anyway.
Yeah, I mean, yeah. But like, people would go, yeah, there's probably not a whole lot of fans of, you know, Kai or Fujin or Draman. But there are. Because there are fans of everyone. You know. So we're in this kind of situation where they don't want to let go of the past with all of these legacy characters, or what they see as legacy characters.
Which makes no sense to me, because this is like the rare game where they could just let it go and the series would still be wildly successful.
Yeah.
They don't need to like have that anchor.
Mm-hmm. Like, you have Scorpion and Sub-Zero in every game, and everyone accepts that. You can pretty much throw anyone else there you want. Like, I don't think anyone's gonna go, wait, Sonya's not in it? Well, fuck it, I'm not buying it. Like, you know.
Yeah, exactly.
You could have made this whole roster, like, Scorpion and Sub-Zero, and then threw in fucking Natara, Moloch, Jarek, Cobra. It didn't matter. Because it's a Mortal Kombat game. Like, I very much recall like being on a forum with somebody, and they were like, if such and such is in the game, I'm not getting it. And my reply was, are you a fan of Mortal Kombat, or are you just a fan of this character? Like, if Melina didn't make it in, I'd be upset, but I'd be okay, because there are other characters. You know, there's a lot of games Melina wasn't in. I'm okay. You know, I'm not sure if she'll be in the next one. Who knows, you know? And again, I'm making the mistake of going, well, there's a really good place they can go in the next one. You know, there's a lot of storytelling possibilities where this one leads off, where they can go in this cool direction. I hope that because of the generational theme they went with this, we're guaranteed to probably get those 4 characters back. You know?
Yeah.
Chance of comeback for Devora, I'd say, is okay, pretty good. Kotal, I'd say, is pretty much a lock. You know, again, Ferritor and Aaron Black, maybe. But if there's anything good to be said for the fact that they shoved the combat kids down our throat, they're at least giving us something else that they can anchor themselves on. So when Jax and Sonya and Johnny aren't in the next game, you know, they can go, well, here are our boring human characters. You know, a lot of people are like, well, Jackie isn't going to make it because, you know, like, everyone's already saying, like, she's the Jade of the situation, you know. And that's possible. Because I've yet to see a person play Jackie, unfortunately. And I've seen everyone else. You know, I've seen a lot of Cassies, I've seen a lot of Kung Jins, obviously a ton of Takedas. No one's playing Jackie.
It's kind of weird because she is fast as shit.
Yeah, but she's super hard to use. That's the thing with her. Like I said, I am probably going to try to make her like one of my mains, just because I think by sheer virtue of some asshole picking Scorpion, and then I just hover over Jackie, and they're like, what? I don't know how to deal with this character, because no one plays as her. That I think I could probably get a lot of wins that way. Be like, well, Jackie, I don't even know what she does. Does she even have moves? Like, you know, like, watch for the uppercut, I guess, because you don't know what else is coming. But the story itself, we played through it together. It was I like how it was presented in terms of like the NPC characters and things. Mm-hmm. You can fight but like, I kind of give up on having them actually tell a good story, I think, because the die-hard, you know, and in some way entitled Mortal Kombat fans care a lot more than they do. I think Ed Boon is a guy who just sits around and goes, you know what's really fucking cool? Flame skulls. He doesn't really sit around and think of like the deep implications of the Melina character and, what kind of inner turmoil that character may go through and insecurities because of her deformity. Like, I don't think that's something he stays up thinking about at night.
No.
I think he's like a 50-year-old man who just kind of like thought that like flames were cool. And that's kind of where this came from. Another part of it could also be because John Tobias isn't with them anymore, and he was kind of the guy that was their torchbearer for story. And when he left, no one knew what the fuck was going on with it for a while. But it was good.
Yeah, it was decent.
If nothing else, no other fighting game is going to match in terms of presentation. Even if it does seem super forced, it's like, oh, look, they're fighting on that same bridge that they fought on 20 years ago. And finding these really shoehorned ways for these people to come into these backgrounds. Like, if Street Fighter had this kind of presentation with its story mode, it would be amazing.
Yeah, it would be.
it would be fucking incredible.
I think I might even play Street Fighter again if that happened.
And that's another advantage to being a more casual game. The barrier to entry for people for a Street Fighter at this point, so many people I know, they're like, man, Street Fighter used to be fun. If I play it now, I'm just gonna get fucking killed. So I'm not even gonna bother. So yeah, I'd love to see more of this kind of thing, and I'd also love to see more of. If the next Mortal Kombat game has the same exact story structure, I think I'll be very disappointed. Where it's just like, here's a character, have 4 fights, alright, you're done, next one. Like, I hope they expand on that, where they go maybe kind of branching paths. Maybe not to change the story, but maybe just to change the fight that you perform or something, or choosing to kill a character or not kill a character, or something like that. It doesn't need to be some sort of Mass Effect thing or anything, but I think it would be, or just letting us play as villains.
Yeah.
They kind of do here in this one, which is a good sign. And again, I do appreciate that it wasn't just, hey, Reptile and Baraka are going to job over and over. They actually tried to give you good reasons for people to come into these situations. And again, having NPCs helps. And there were some cameos that I enjoyed as well, that were quite fun. But
also, I think we can agree the most enjoyable part of story mode was Uncle Fester getting the shit kicked out of him repeatedly.
Yeah, it made me enjoy playing as certain characters that I wouldn't have, just because you get to kick Quan Chi in the balls or something. So I will say that was a highlight for me. So that's pretty much it for those elements. There's a lot of extra things we can comment on. Before we get on the online stuff, maybe we should talk about the crypt.
Fucking crypt.
The fucking crypt.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I've spent a fair amount of time in the crypt trying to unlock stuff. I am never gonna fucking finish it because, god damn, is it humongous. I would have to buy the $20 unlock the crypt shit off of the Xbox Live store. Because there's no way in hell I'm ever gonna unlock all this stuff, because there's so many areas of this place. And you get attacked by spiders and corpses and fucking, I don't know, wildebeest fucking wolf things constantly.
I think it'd be better if they were wildebeests, actually.
Yeah.
Much larger, you could see them coming.
But, yeah, I mean, it's structured slightly differently than the last game. Like, you have to collect relics that unlock other areas of the crypt. They
tried to make it like its own adventure game, pretty much.
Kinda, yeah.
I appreciate the ambition. I think they're getting a little too cute. You know what the best crypt was? Deadly Alliance. The very first one.
Yeah.
And it was very simple. It was just lines of fucking tombstones. Occasionally a character cameo would run by. But you just unlocked shit. And the fun was in that they had created content specifically for the crypt, and it was really cool stuff, you know. That game was, what, over 10 years ago now. We still don't have our next cooking a scorpion, you know? It was like the Shang Tsung energy drink advertisements. Like, that kind of stuff. That was the fun. People weren't going like, woo, concept art! Like, that wasn't the draw of the crypt.
I get so pissed off when I spend a bunch of coins on getting concept art.
With this one, I will at least say the concept art is not such a bad thing, because you can see, first of all, it has text with it. I think if you're going to have concept art in your game, you should at least have that to explain what the fuck it is. And they did that in Deadly Alliance, where there was like, here's a picture of a zebra man. His name was Zebron. He was a character we were going to have, and then we realized, why the fuck would we have a zebra man in our game? You know, that's the kind of stuff that was cool. And I've looked through the ones in this, and, you know, just seeing all the different concept arts for a lot of the new characters, some of which I think look better than the ones they went with, honestly. A lot of because, you know, the katana designs were really interesting. I thought the constant struggle they have to go through with Reptile in his design, where there's still people out there, and it makes no sense to me, that want human Reptile. Because they have this fucking reverence for ninjas, so much so that they don't actually care, or seem to care, that he is named Reptile. And thus is a reptile. They just remember that Scorpion clone that was in the pit 20 years ago and go, I liked that guy. It's like, there was nothing to that guy.
It was a secret character that you got after achieving a whole bunch of shit. Yeah. Seeing Santa Claus on the moon.
And like, the whole idea of human Reptile was kind of stupid. Like, it was okay as a disguise, but he doesn't need one. There was never really a story context for him to have one, especially when he can turn invisible. So it was kind of just one of those things. And, like, granted, the whole de-evolution thing that they went through, where he progressively got, like, a bigger tail and stuff, it kind of started to get a little wild. But I think they've reached a happy medium here in terms of, like, his design and stuff. But just that kind of thing they touch upon in their concept art. That said, one of the advantages to the PC version is that I have access to Cheat Engine. So I just gave myself 9 million coins. So I unlocked everything in the crypt. It still took me a bit, because you still have to go through its arbitrary process of, let me get Kenshi's sword out of whatever. And also, oh yeah, there's spiders every 3 steps. When the MK9 crypt came out, everyone was like, oh, this is... I thought the MK9 crypt was the worst. Because not only was it a jump scare factory...
Yeah.
Well, I'm sorry. There's a difference between jump scare and screamers. It was a screamer factory. But the stuff that you unlocked was so uninteresting. You know, at least in this, you're unlocking brutalities. I do think it's bullshit that you have to actually unlock the brutality, even if you perform it correctly, before you can do it.
Yeah. But
I'd gone through every section of it. and it's fine. You know, the wolves don't bother me. The bodies don't bother me. The spiders are bullshit because they come from underneath the screen. But your reward for them is coins. Okay. I'm just not. I just think there's kind of like a tonal shift from hell, even, where it's like Mortal Kombat isn't a horror game, so why are you trying to make it one? And I get that you're trying to make the going through the crypt engaging, but like they made it really engaging by how it looks and by the fact that you have to do these kind of errands. And I think if you actually could like implement a system of secrets and stuff like that, or even like you find an area that you shouldn't and there's a character there that you normally wouldn't see, I think that would be a better direction to go instead of going, oh, there's spiders, it's scary. There is actually a not a slot machine, but I guess like a gambling thing you can do in the crypt as well. And from what I can tell, it is the only way to get certain things. A lot of it is just like King of the Hill, emocons, or whatever. But
yeah, I only used it once because I mean, kind of, sort of, spoiler alert. You have to use it to get one of the artifacts in the crypt. Mm. But that's the only way. The only reason. That's the only time I used it. So
yeah,
I can't say one way or another.
Well, I had 9 million coins.
So why the fuck not?
So it was pretty much, pretty much the dream of the dual monitor setup was realized because I'm pumping coins into this thing on one screen, and then I have, my giant bomb video or whatever on my other. Watch, I don't know, Guns N' Roses music video for Estranged. Hell of a song. But it eventually it just gives you everything and goes, okay, here's 5,000 coins. So I think I've exhausted everything from the crypt. The thing that the crypt really needs more than anything, especially if they're going to keep making it bigger and bigger, is some indicator of percentage.
Yes. Oh my fucking god. Because I don't know how much stuff I've gotten in any area of this thing, and there's about 10 or 12 areas.
Yeah, if you're not going to show me... Like, the map is kind of useless. Like, it'll show the paths that you can go to. But, like, I went through the spider caves, and I'm like, okay, there's a lot of turns I went through here. I think I got everything. And in that area, it's not even, like, chests or, like, a tombstone. It's, like, bodies that blend in with the background. And when you're trying to avoid spiders and other bullshit, you're just like, okay, did I see it? No, okay, turn around, let's go. It wouldn't be hard to just implement a thing like, okay, you have 52 out of 90 chests opened in this area,
yeah,
that kind of thing. So I'd hope if they don't at least make an update for that, which they probably won't. In the next game, they kind of consider that because they did that in 9. Mortal Kombat 9, there was a counter at least that said, okay, you have this many chests or you have this much percentage, and I don't know why they didn't do it this time. But,
it's almost like they forgot.
The indication I get is that this was very much a crunch time kind of game. They went kind of down to the wire with a lot of this, I think. Not to say that like, oh, well, they're just showing you their unfinished shit for DLC. Like, I think they had that already pretty much in place. But in terms of, like, feature set, in terms of, like, letting the developers of the PC version finish their fucking game, because the online was completely borked. I guess that's a good transition as any to go talking about online. Your experiences with online on the console end.
I've had an unfortunate amount of lag, but I think that's because Comcast blows goats for quarters. But overall, I've had a pretty positive experience. Like I said earlier, I've actually won quite a few matches, which is just astounding, honestly. I am really, really getting annoyed though with how faction warfare almost never works. I swear, I think it's worked for maybe 15% of the time that the game has been out.
Yeah, you'll boot the game and it'll be like faction warfare cannot be accessed at this point or whatever.
Yeah, the faction server is experiencing problems, blah 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 blah.
I'm getting the same thing with the living towers as well. So I missed the entire invasion thing because it just flat out didn't work, which sucks because I was kind of interested in that. But our experience is going to be quite different because I think not only in terms of like their netcode, this is better than 9. 9 was terrible. 9 was just you sitting there in your lobby staring at that picture of Shao Kahn while the little connection thing just swirled around for a while and went, I don't see anybody. So that is better. And I played that on console. That's when I had Verizon Vios and I couldn't find a fucking match. So that was definitely on their end. Here, I think it's a combination of, our internet being terrible and also server-side stuff on their end. In terms of the people it matches you up with, I think is kind of weird. Like sometimes I'll fight a guy who has a 0-7 record, and sometimes I'll fight a guy who has like 200 wins, and that's in ranked. It's just, I found myself losing a lot, and I don't know if it's because the people playing on PC are just more hardcore and better. Because you saw me when I played the guys on Xbox One. Kind of a different story. And I was just standing there. It wasn't like I made a day of it. I was like, I had like a 7-game win streak or something stupid.
Yeah.
Just curb stomping people. Like, I guess I don't suck as much as I thought.
I think my favorite moment in my online game so far is when I was playing, of course, in Ermac, and dude was like, fuck your hat. Because, of course, I was playing as Kung Lao. I ended up beating him, and I said, no, sir, fuck you and your telekinesis.
The one other downside to the PC version, like, ranked matches I almost can't do at all. I can do King of the Hill a lot. Which, I mean, that's fine, because King of the Hill is kind of fun. And it also allows you to actually see what you're getting into.
Yeah, you can watch people play before you.
And go, oh, well, this guy just teleport spams, so I'm going to kill him. Or, okay, that guy actually knows what he's doing. It still needs a lot of work. Again, we're in, like, week 2. By the time this is up, it'll be like week 3 of the game's release. We haven't even gotten the first batch of DLC yet, so it's, all work in progress. The PC version's constantly getting updated. I will say that even without the servers being down, faction wars are fucked.
Yep. Absolutely 100% boned. And I don't know what they can do about it, but they gotta do something, because 41-ish, somewhere around there, percent of people are in Lin Kuei.
Yeah.
And when you have that, the way they tally up war points and all this stuff, nobody else can beat that.
Yeah.
And I'm in the White Lotus, which is the next closest, but that's only 22% or something.
Mm-hmm. I don't know how they didn't see this coming. It's like, okay, here are the groups you can pick. Sonya, no, okay. Kano's? No. Okay. Uncle Fester's Naked Puzzle Basement. Granted, I'm in Brotherhood of Shadow, but I'm doing it in the name of Shinnok and not in the name of Quan Chi. White Lotus, which really is never much of a concept in the greater lore of Mortal Kombat. It's what, Raiden and the guys who died because of him?
Yeah, like the Shaolin monks, Fujin,
yeah, like,
who isn't a character
who
in the
isn't
game.
even in the game. Or the Ice Wizards. I'm sorry, the Ninja Ice Wizards. How is that a choice? Even without the name value of Sub-Zero behind it. Now, if the Shirai Ryu was a faction, we'd have something.
Yeah.
I don't know why it isn't. It makes no sense to me. I don't know how people looked at the available listings and like, yeah, we're going to have an even spread, because there's a lot of people that like the Black Dragon. Which has one representative who is probably like one of the characters most in need of a timeout. I don't mean for bad behavior. I mean just go the fuck away, Kano.
Yeah.
And this is somebody that enjoys and lives his life based on the teachings of movie Kano. But enough's enough. Or you're just gonna be like, yeah, I'm a real big Kira fan. That's who I'm choosing to represent. Like
or
maybe
Cobra.
Yeah. Like the only thing lamer would have been like Stryker and his PD. Which I'm surprised isn't actually like a faction. Like, like the Sindel and the Screaming Banshees were a roller derby team. Like
I was gonna say you could have the Adanian roller derby.
Yeah.
Katana, Jade, Sindel, Rain.
Yeah, like I want to hope that one of two things happen. Either A, they just add more factions and better ones, like Outworld. You can do Chaos Realm.
Chaos Realm would be fucking awesome.
I would join Chaos Realm in a fucking heartbeat. Shirai Ryu, Lizard Men, Bug Ladies, like, just go all out. Or conversely, it'd actually be funny if Predator just got his own faction. The Predators, the Jasons.
Predator and Jason form a tag team.
Yeah, going for the tag team titles in the heavyweight division. But either they do that and they add more factions to make this better, or they just do what they claimed the faction wars were going to do to start, where it's more of a weighted total in relation to how many members are actually in the faction. So they can't just go, well, we have more people, so we win. Because if that's the case, why do any faction challenges at all? The only
kind of defeats the purpose.
Yeah, the only reason I'm leveling up Brotherhood of Shadow at all is because I'm just getting more faction kills. And I'm hoping that maybe if you level up all the factions, you unlock something. But just by proxy of the fact you have to have a faction, I'm figure fuck. And Lin Kuei seems wholly unappealing to me because everyone's in it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm a Sub-Zero mark. I enjoy, a good Kuai Liang as much as the next guy, but it just, of course everyone was going to pick that. Because to the casual Mortal Kombat fan, it's like, well, what do you know? Palette swap ninjas, mostly? Yeah, so, yeah, that's disappointing, and I'd say a lot of the online features are kind of disappointing. The towers haven't really blown me away. I do like the idea of the Premier Towers, where you can try the DLC characters ahead of time, And like so the idea of just having a Jason tower where you can literally just go through and sleeping bag kill every character or something.
Yeah.
If he doesn't have a fucking sleeping bag move, I'm saying it right now.
Something is drastically wrong.
Missed opportunity, yeah. Or if there's not an Uber Jason skin. But
I mean, the sleeping bag could be one of his fatalities.
I want it to be his X-ray. I want it to be he throws the sleeping bag over you and then just picks you up and slams you into the ground repeatedly. Or like a tree shows up out of nowhere and he throws you into the tree. But yeah, I want one of his moves to actually just be the walk. Not a punch walk, just a walk. He just walks at you.
Yeah.
But like...
And is invincible for like 5 seconds.
Yeah. And you just take damage from being close to him or something. Like, there's so much potential for that character, and I feel like it's impossible for it to be met. Like, how is Jason going to do combos? How is Jason going to do a jumping punch? You know, that kind of thing.
Well, I mean, it's probably going to be similar to Aaron Black. Aaron Black doesn't do any flips, because obviously he does not know any martial arts. But, so it's probably going to be something like that.
I do like the practicality of, like, again, Aaron Black in terms of, like, design, in terms of the way he moves, he always has his hand, like, on the, like, itchy trigger finger kind of thing going on.
Yeah.
I like he kind of just has one move where he's like, fuck it, I'll drop kick you. You know? I really do like that. Like I said, there's a lot of personality. Like, the intros is something we haven't even touched on. I love the fact that there's so many intros.
Yeah, unique ones for every possible character combination. It's great. I love that level of detail.
You know, online, everyone skips them, but yeah,
it's been a half and half for me. I like half skip, half don't. I always just let them play through if the others do.
I think it's another reason why I've enjoyed playing as Johnny, because just doing it in the single player thing for the towers and just seeing what he says to everybody, because there's so many of them.
Yeah.
And it's one of those things you can definitely spoil for yourself, like just watching probably like a YouTube comp or something. The same thing with the brutalities, really. But I think it's so much better where you're like, oh, well, you know, for longevity of the game, for if I'm playing this a year from now, and I go, oh, I never heard that before. Because that's the kind of stuff I love in video games, where it's like, I've played this game probably more than is healthy, but I had never noticed that one little detail. And that's something that, that's why I like Deception so much, because that conquest mode where you ran around was all about that kind of stuff, and just little secrets like that. But yeah, is there anything we haven't really touched upon that should be commented on in this game, you think?
I can't think of anything. I'm just trying to relive the menus in my head. It's those beautiful menus, you know.
Again, just nice spacing. They're not too far apart, not too close together.
No. I mean, it's really just beautifully laid out.
I mean, it looked like it was stenciled almost. It was just, you know, it's great stuff.
10 out of 10 for the menu.
Yeah, it's a great menu.
Yeah, no, I don't think we've forgotten anything.
Yeah.
But I mean, I guess if we're gonna do some final thoughts here, like you said, I do hope that they fix some things that are glaring. Like, God, the fucking faction wars.
Mm-hmm.
That needs to be fixed like a week ago.
Mm.
But by and large, I'm having a lot of fun with it. I'm just excited that I'm actually pretty good online. So maybe I have a little bit more rose-tinted glasses than somebody else would, but yeah, I'm going to be playing this for a good while. I can tell.
Yeah. I definitely echo the sentiment of the faction thing. I think also, not just restructuring, but I think there need to be better rewards. Because as far as I can tell, it's pretty much just going to be like titles and, you know, member quote, or here's a picture of a guy from this thing. And hopefully it's more than that. Because I don't really care if I have a gold or platinum Mortal Kombat symbol. Like, E-penis never impressed me.
I have a gold Kung Lao hat on mine.
Yeah, I just have like Melina eyes because I think it looks cool. Like, I'm not even paying attention to the bonuses they give, because who gives a fuck? Like, oh, I get an extra 10 points of experience. I have like 60,000 experience points. Who cares?
Yeah.
I am definitely very excited, again, because we're so much in this discovery process. I'm probably spending more time watching video of people play the game to learn from them than I am actually playing the game. And because, again, it's the PC version, it's still kind of a chore just to get everything set up and going. If I am booting it up, I'm probably spending a lot more time in training mode than anything. I'm definitely going to be excited to see what else comes after this.
Yeah, I spent a good hour in training mode the other day just practicing tornado launch combos.
Yeah.
Nothing but that.
Yeah, and there are a lot of people that have never done that before in a fighting game. And a lot of people are finally like, I never fucking went in training mode. This is a game that rewards you for doing it. And you can actually see the results from it. Unlike in Street Fighter, where I'll spend 40 hours in training mode, I could still get stomped. And as with anything, there's no guarantee. I've done better lately. When I first started, I couldn't get out of the gate, but again, because the game was screwed. I'm excited to see where it goes forward in terms of gameplay. There's already been character patches. Nothing major, but just a few things here and there. Selfishly, I hope they make Mileena better. Because even though I am playing as her mainly, she's got trouble. She's got a lot of trouble with a lot of characters. And you have to play her in a very reckless, high-risk kind of fashion to get anywhere with her. So just to give her a little bit of help would be nice. Maybe, please. But I'm seeing tons of people play her, so yeah, that's a good sign. But also, in terms of, content. In terms of what is coming after this combat pack, in terms of, new skins. I normally wouldn't care about skins, but in fighting games I do. Because you're looking at this character so often. You just want something different.
Mm-hmm.
That's why I bought, so many goddamn Street Fighter skins. Even there's of course Balrog doesn't need the Apollo Creed outfit, but he really kind of does.
No, he does.
Yeah.
Because that's awesome.
Speaking of Carl Weathers, I'm very much looking forward to the Jax skin. I might actually play Jax just to be Carl Weathers. It's gonna be funny if it actually, there's this influx of popularity when that comes out. Just everyone decides they want to play Jax all of a sudden. It's man, I fought 10 Carl Weathers in a row. There's an achievement for it. But
they need to get it. They need to get an Ivan Drago skin for somebody. Maybe for Aaron Black. I don't fucking know.
There are some weird skin packs coming. There's the Cold War skin pack. That's Russian Kano. Okay. There's apparently a Brazil pack coming. I don't know if they're just gonna pander to every country. If that's the case, I very much look forward to Lithuanian Reptile.
I was gonna say I can't wait for Burkina Faso Shinnok.
Madagascar Raiden, he's gonna be top tier. But actually right now I'm just waiting for somebody to unlock all of the mobile skins and then post their WB ID so I can get my classic Mileena. And Farmer Jax, of course, but mainly classic Mileena. But just to see what they're going to do in terms of content, in terms of new characters. If there's another combat pack, which there might be, and there's not Fujin in it, then somebody fucked up.
Yeah.
Because again, somebody's spending way too much time on the MK forums. Yeah. If we're getting Tremor, you can give us Fujin. And just to, the variation system has so much potential for that character with that too. And the kind of things he can do. So I hope for his sake he gets that.
Oh, and something else real quick, as far as the skins go. If you use certain skins with characters, then the intros change between characters. Because I played against a Dark Raiden online, and Kung Lao, had a different intro for that against that Raiden. So it was kind of cool. Yeah,
and I think that's going to continue. There's a classic Sub-Zero skin that came out that was free. in the latest update, PC has not gotten it yet. Apparently there's a patch coming in the next day or so, but I think perpetually there's a patch coming in the next day or so. even after another patch comes out, there'll be a patch to fix the last one. But so I think it'd be really cool after all of the classic costumes come out, if like there was an option almost like their incidental dialogue became their old MK1 sound effects or something. Like I want Liu Kang with all the old sound effects, like when he does the bicycle kick. I want him to make the MK2 bicycle kick noise. Yeah, I will pay good money for that. But yeah, we're not really usually numerical score kind of people.
Yeah, because of the content we tend to be covering.
If I were to give it a number, I'd probably give it like an 8 right now. I definitely think it is a game that I'm going to be playing for a while and definitely be invested in. This is cutting into my Rocksmith time, so that tells you anything.
And my Rock Band time. So
yeah. We're taking away from valuable pretend Rockstar time to be pretend fighter people. So that should tell you something in terms of how much we're enjoying playing it right now. So yeah, I think I'd probably go with an 8. I think there's definitely room for improvement, but I think when we did MK9, I gave it like a 6 or a 7 because I was not impressed when that game first came out. I warmed to it later, but I expect to do the same with this. Once the sour taste of a lot of the story disappointments are gone, and we have all those those patches and that new content, those characters, and the game's grown a bit, I'm going to like it a lot more. So.
Yeah. I'd probably give it an 8 also. I was leaning between that and a 7, but I would go an 8 because I am having so much fun with it. But hopefully they will get those glaring problems fixed. I mean, if they don't, whatever. Not a humongous deal or anything. I'm still going to enjoy playing online.
Yeah.
And kicking the asses of people who talk endless shit. Which, amazingly, I have not had to deal with very much.
It's been non-existent on my end, because just the way Steam works, I guess. Like, direct messaging is not as easy. So I'm not getting any hate mail. And it's disappointing on my end because when I have, like, a really close game, I want to be like, hey, good game. And sometimes it's just like, I don't feel like clicking on all your stuff to tell you that. So fuck it. But, yeah, so that's one thing that's missing is all the salty comments and people going, oh, well, we're just going to keep using that move over and over. And then you go, are you going to keep running into it over and over? Again, I'm reminded of the time when I was playing Street Fighter and the guy said, are you going to do his punch? And I was playing as Balrog, and I went,
yeah.
Yeah, dude. I mean, if I could throw a knee in there, I would, but unfortunately, it's not really on my curriculum. So
it's like when Batman was fighting Deadshot in the that Batman anime thing that came out a long while back, and Deadshot's like, that's the first time anybody's ever tried to stop my bullet by running into it.
Yeah. And this is a game where there are so many ways, again, because it's so rushdown heavy, there are so many ways to get around a lot of that spamming now. Again, so many characters have teleports. If they don't have a teleport, they also have a projectile that they can throw. Devora has a really good solution to it because she has her swarm that comes from underneath. So if some asshole's trying to sit there and throw fireballs all day, I'll just go, okay, fuck you. And then run at them, and then guess what? There is no longer a gap between us.
Nope.
This is the part where I kick you repeatedly. This is... So there's ways through everything, and that's with any fighting game. If I am still employing the same tactics, months from now that I'm now, then there's a problem. But and again, there's kind of that concern where there's this pattern in terms of how matches are going, where it is a lot of that knockdown because of people not having options at Wake Up, that it's pretty much just a matter of, figuring out mix-ups and stuff, as opposed to being like this uber technical, like combo heavy game. Like, I prefer it this way. I like the mind games more than the, hey, look how much wankery I can do and how many hits I can do on this combo, even though it's completely impractical. If you want to do that, play fucking Marvel.
Yeah.
With your 3 viable characters and your Storm Sentinel shit,
Yeah. Good God. I wanted to love Mortal Kombat, MVC3, but it was like, I can't do anything against anybody.
Yeah. I told the story of my experience at the Marvel versus Capcom tournament episodes and eons ago. But yeah, it's and again, I'm always going to be a Street Fighter guy at heart. Street Fighter 5, whenever that comes out, that'll be a reason to get a PS4 because my PC will not run that. But yeah, that's pretty much all we got for you guys. We wanted to do this special thing because we had told you enough, and we fucking talk about Mortal Kombat enough. So we might even actually probably maybe post a link to this on the Oratory or something after it goes up, because I know we've been talking a lot in that thread too.
Oh yeah.
So just kind of a different thing for us. For regular Tirades listeners, you're probably like, why isn't he yelling at me? Because we're not talking about a bad thing. We're talking about a thing we enjoy. So that's.
And don't you worry. I mean, you'll get your usual dose of our sarcasm very soon. So
yeah, this should be up by Friday or Saturday, and then we will be recording our happening episode very shortly after. So don't you worry, kids. But until then,
fight.
Yeah, do that. A lot of it with the fists and the fighting and the biting and
and the knives and the guns and the size
and the ladies. Okay.